Hello and welcome to a very special episode today. We are honored to announce our 2026 Designer 360 Award recipient. Each year, nominees are peer nominated and decided by our board. The award recognizes a designer who not only demonstrates excellence in their work, but who also contributes and elevates the interior design community as a whole. A true 360 designer is someone whose impact goes beyond beautiful spaces and through leadership, innovation, and a well-rounded career that helps shape the future of design. And this year, we're proud to recognize JayJeffers. Congratulations, Jay. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. Let's give you a virtual round of applause. Thank you, thank
Thank you,
you.
thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm honored to have been selected this year. It's kind of crazy to me, but it's great. Thank you.
We had a really good pool of nominees, I'm not going to lie, but just to start off with, your career alone just reflects how much of a 360 designer that you are. Residential, hospitality, product, publishing. Do you sleep? um, when you take a step back and look at it all, what does that kind of full 360 career really feel like day to day?
It's funny because it just feels like life to me. I'm in the process of onboarding a new assistant, and my new assistant is like, wow, you are busy all the time. And my previous assistant is training her, and she's like, oh, yeah, it doesn't stop. By the way, it doesn't stop. And to me, I'm just like, this is everyday life. This is just what I do. This is just it for me. I am constantly on the go, but I enjoy it. I mean, I have my downtime too, of course. I like, have my moments of on the sofa with the dog watching, some kind of trash TV that I don't have to think about it. But, I this was a second career for me in my 20s, and once I figured out what I wanted to do with my life, I never looked back and have just kept going, and it's been a blast. I've loved it.
I love that you mentioned second career because a lot of our DSA members are what I like to call the encore career crowd.
Yep.
This is their second passion. So that's amazing, amazing. I
Yeah.
still don't know how you have time. Um, but every designer's path looks a little different, and yours evolved into such a multifaceted career. Can you talk to us a little bit about what initially drew you to design and what made you change your mind to make it your encore career, and maybe what key moments or decisions led that?
Yeah, I would say like I'm not the most amazing student, and when I was at university, I really had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And I was getting a business degree because that's what everybody else was doing. And I ended up taking a marketing class, an advertising class. And the creative portion of that was like, okay, I can see myself doing this. This is my path. I'm going to be an advertising, someday I'll have my own ad agency and I'll design all the cool ads for, all the campaigns and all that kind of stuff. And that was in Texas. And I ended up moving to San Francisco because advertising was so hot there. And I ended up working for the Gap in their corporate headquarters in PR and advertising. All the advertising campaigns were in-house at the time. And I enjoyed it, but it wasn't, I soon realized like I'm not a corporate America guy. I want something smaller. I want something more creative. And I literally was, aging myself because there was no internet. So I was literally looking through an actual course catalog schedule for Berkeley Extension programs, and there was an introduction to interior design that was happening in the next week. I happened to be like in the middle of like decorating my first San Francisco apartment, on a shoestring, going to discount fabrics and making my own window coverings and things like that. So I was enjoying doing it, but I'd never really thought about it as a career. And then I took this introduction class, and it was like a light bulb, rainbow explosions. It was the first time in my life that I was like, I could see myself. I remember thinking like, I think I'm good at this, and I think I could see myself making a living doing this, and being happy making the living doing this. So that sort of started it. And then I had a friend that was an interior designer, called him up, and I was like, can I just come help you in your office and see what it's like? Ended up doing like, working for him for free for a little while. Then I ended up working for him for about 4 years and went back to school. And I didn't get another entire degree. I just sort of took the basics for 2 years and really learned on the job training working for him and helped grow his business and then went off on my own in 1999 and started my own thing.
Wow. You can definitely tell you were trying, first apartment, you needed that creative outlet. I have
Yeah.
never wall cover, coverings on your windows. I love that.
I made Roman shades with I had like dowels of wood and rolled fabric that was like $5 a yard, rolled fabric on it. I knew how to sew because my mother had taught me how to sew. I sewed a little hem on it. So I had Roman shades. I mean, they didn't go up and down, but I would just like tie them back. But I had
Right.
this, I probably, my first apartment in San Francisco was cheap and in a terrible neighborhood, but it was probably the biggest bedroom I've ever had. It's even today.
Wow.
It had two banks of windows, so I made my own curtains, honey. It was fun. It was good.
I do want to get into JayJeffers Inc. So I know you've built that into a highly respected firm over the past 25 years. How has your design perspective evolved and what has remained like a non-negotiable for your work from the beginning?
I think the non-negotiable is I've always wanted to in my own homes and no matter what the budget is, budgets were I would take anything when I first started out and budgets have gotten bigger as we've gotten bigger and that sort of thing and that's really nice too, but I always want a home to feel like it's authentic to the people that live there. I've always wanted a home to feel like it's been collected over time, that it's not too precious, that you're not living in a museum or a palace, that you're living in a home that actually functions and breathes and ages and all the things, whether you're raising a family or whether you're empty nesters or whether you're single, a single bachelor or whatever. That's been always like what I've wanted the home to look and feel like. I think that, you know, I mean, I started the business when I was 31. So, I certainly have my tastes and my what's the word I'm saying? My tastes have certainly evolved, and I think my clients do too.
Of
You see
course.
things that you like, or as you get older, you may want something a little bit different. Some things might be one thing might be important to you in your 30s and something else might be much more important to you in your 50s. So, I think being exposed to more and more things and travel and all that kind of inspiration, it just, you evolve as well as your clients do.
And I do agree with you. I think the best homes are also curated over time. You get to build and add.
Many cases, we're creating that curated over time. We're
Right.
doing it all at once. I have clients that have young kids and they don't want to
Have a kitty
build a
house.
collection that goes into a library or they want things to be on the walls. They don't want to wait to, find things over the next 10 years. They want it done now. And so I love doing that. And it's
Mhm.
a lot of work and it's a lot harder to make it feel like it's been collected over time and to sort of really, think about the editing process and whether you've got enough antiques and vintage pieces and your artwork and and it's authentic to them, to the clients as well. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun.
Well, see, and that's a great transition that many designers struggle with pushing the boundaries while managing client expectations. So, like you said, you want to bring their personality into it. So, I know you do a lot of learning, but how do you
Mhm.
introduce risk or bold moments into a project that clients feel confident in embracing?
I mean, I think it depends on the client.
True.
Some clients are more interested in taking risks, some clients aren't. So I sort of, you get to know, I think I think one of my skills as an interior designer is I really understand my clients and how they think. It's not necessarily that I'm the most creative person, out there and I can't draw like, I don't consider myself truly an artist, but I am a great editor and I just understand my clients. So getting to know them, you sort of know, okay, what's the rooms that we can push the boundaries in, or what are the options that we can give them, or are they up for a wild, wallpaper on the walls? And if they're not, then maybe that wild wallpaper is something that goes in a powder room and not in the living room. So you kind of judge your clients and what their risk threshold might be. And I always have options for my clients. I learned early on, very early on, one of my first projects, I came up with a scheme that I loved, and I came up with a scheme that I didn't love very much and I was like, I know they're going to pick this one, so I'll just come up with this other scheme that they won't like as much. Of course, they picked the one that I didn't want them to do. So I learned then, I'm like, okay, if you're going to show two schemes you will be very happy with, and make sure that you love both schemes. So even when it's like when I have a risky idea that I want to show, I will show clients other options because I don't want them to feel like that they're pigeonholed into something that I want them to have or that I think is going to look good. I want them to be comfortable with it. So sometimes they don't choose the risky option, and that's okay too. As I tell my clients in this business, we have the luxury of there's not one right answer. There might be seven right answers for
Mhm.
a room or a look or a sofa or that sort of thing. And you don't have to be so specific that this is the one you must have. It's going to work with other options as well.
Great answer. That was a very good answer. I did want to ask you about your collaborations. So, with arterials to hardware line with accurate lock and hardware, how much or how do you approach translating your design ethos into projects? Like, what makes a collaboration worth pursuing?
I think if I see that there might be a hole in the market or something missing. If I think for myself, things that I'm doing for clients, I wish I had a bowl that looked like this and I don't, and I can't find it, or, that sort of thing. I'm always looking like, can I put my spin on it, and does it bring something new to the market? Like Accurate Lock and Hardware, they approached me through a random sort of the head of marketing there was friends with, went to school with a real estate agent in LA that I know, and that my name came up when they were thinking about, and I was their first collaboration that was to
I love
consumers
it.
because they do everything that they do is business to business, and they work for all of the manufacturing brands to do the interlocking of all the hardware, and this was their first hardware that went to clients. So we're thinking like, okay, what's out of the box? What can we do differently? What's interesting and different? So those are the ones that interest me the most, is how can I make it truly unique and bring something new to the market.
And that's that advertiser brain right there. Knowing
Yeah.
your audience, knowing what's missing in the market. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Um, And then looking back at your career, what advice would you give designers who are in the early stages of building their firm versus those who are ready to refine or scale and establish practice?
That's a great question. I think a big one for me is know your finances. There are a lot of us are creative people. We don't want to think about numbers. We don't want to look at numbers. It's, we're not that good at math. I happen to be pretty good at math, so I feel like I'm very lucky in that respect. But I think it's very important to know, is the work that you're doing profitable?
Right.
Is the amount that you're charging the right amount? Are you making money? Are you surviving on this? All those kind of things. And also like, you can find somebody that's really good at it that can do this work for you, but you have to be watching it and looking over it, auditing it, making sure, I've heard horror stories of, bookkeepers and things like that ended up taking money and that kind of thing. So it does happen. So I
Mhm.
think it's really important that we know our businesses, and it's not just we don't just handle the creative part, or you're able to monitor it. I mean, the other thing I tell people is be a nice person. You have a reputation. Be nice, pay your vendors on time, pay them early if you can. Treat your employees really well. Make sure that they are heard in your business. Make sure that they are a part of decision making. Make sure that they are appreciated because you can't do this alone and you need people and you're going to have a favor that you need from a vendor someday. And if you've paid your bills on time and if you're a nice person and you don't, fly off the handle and go crazy, they're going to help you. And if you are crazy and you do fly off the handle and you haven't paid them in 6 months, they're not going to help you.
Right.
It's important.
It is important. You got to treat people with kindness.
Yeah. I
Um,
think too, everybody should photograph their work, photograph everything. And if it's
yes.
not like, especially young designers, there were projects that weren't finished that I would bring in artwork and accessories and even furniture pieces that might have been missing and then photograph it. And then, 9 times out of 10, half of those things might stay because the client's like, oh, it looks really good finished.
Yep.
But there are there are very few projects that are the ones that got away from early in my career that I thought, oh, I'll wait. Back in the day when magazines would photograph their works for you, I was like, oh, I'll wait for a magazine will pick this up. And, magazine didn't pick it up. And then the client sold it. And I'm like, oh, I have no record of that
Right.
project that I love doing kind of thing.
I know that's our biggest advice with DSA members. We have a whole, hub where they can have resources to stuff like this. And one of our major things that we push an accountant, bookkeeper, and a
Hmm.
great photographer because
Yeah.
those are the things, that help you establish your studio and help
Yeah.
keep you afloat. So could not agree
For
more.
sure.
As co-owner and the designer of the Madrona, how did your approach differ from residential projects?
Well, I had more of a budget.
That's good.
Um, for sure. I approached it with um how did I approach it differently? I mean, I would say the Madrona feels very residential when you're there. You could be sitting in the front parlor, you could be sitting in someone's living room for sure. So it definitely has that kind of vibe. But I really thought about it like, how is this going to appeal to more than two people or a family that's living here, like my clients, but appeal to everyone when they come in the door. What's going to create interest? How's it going to look during the day? And how does it transition into night? Because I'm a huge hotel person. Like I like to stay in beautiful hotels that I can, sit and work during the day and I love the room. And then at night, the music changes and the candles come on and the lights go down and suddenly the cocktails are instead of having tea, you're having a cocktail, and I love all of how that transition works and kind of watching it happen too is really fascinating to sort of see the candles come out and hear the lights go down and hear the music come up and the music changes from like, a slow and easy vibe during the day to a more sexy vibe at night. So I really thought about how those spaces transition and how they transition
Right.
for everyone and not just for myself or for a few clients and that sort of thing.
Well, my follow-up to that was how do you embrace the guest experience in this design? And I feel like you just kind of questioned or answered that.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important. The guest experience is it's about, you know, being comfortable. You can walk in by yourself and go sit in a chair and read a book and hang out and sort of watch the world go by, or you can come in with a bunch of friends and sit and have a catch up and chat or sit on the front porch or do, all those kind of things. I think it's those little touches are things that I remember. Those are things that I remember those little, whether it's the service and the people or whether it's the small touches that you really remember when you go and stay in these places. And I wanted to create those kind of memories for people.
Last and certainly not least, you have a new book coming out this fall.
Yeah.
Congratulations. What can readers expect from this one?
It's 13 projects that I've done probably in the last 8 years or so. And it's interesting because people have asked me like, what's the difference in the last book and this book? And the last book
Right.
was called Be Bold, and this book is called Classic Modern. And I think it's an evolution in my own style. I still love color, I still love pattern, but when I was started out, I was sort of known as the color and pattern guy, and I kind of hated it because I didn't want to be pigeonholed into one place that I work only. I think what you see in this is an authenticity in the materials that are used in the projects of where they are, the geographic location, whether it's, a weekend home in the mountains, or it's a main residence, or it's an apartment in the city and that sort of thing. Um, I think I hope it brings inspiration to other designers, and I hope it's aspirational for other potential clients as well.
Definitely. And I even looked at your Collected Cool book as well.
Mhm.
Just
Yes.
really enjoy, I just so enjoy all of your touches. I see every single detail and fantastic work. And I'm very excited about this book and can't wait to hear more.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I'm excited about it too.
Thank you so much, Jay, for coming and joining us today. And again, congratulations on our being our Designer 360 for this year. Thank you so much.
It was my pleasure. It was a great, and I'm honored to be your designer this year. It's really exciting.